Wait for it. Wait for it. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction, especially Nick, and he is our special guest today. So let me take that logo off the screen for those of you watching from the cheap seats. Cheap seats?
Cheap seats?
Cheap
tomato?
This would be, I guess, low thread count. Anyway, I stumbled all over that one. Anyway, Nick, you're the small press in review today. I decided we've done got 3 Ravens.
I don't know.
But we didn't do Apogee, and I figured this is a good way to start season 4.
Yeah, absolutely.
So did
you
never
have interviewed me before?
We did. Fun. Episode 2, season 1.
Yeah. That's when I came onto the show.
Yeah. Did you have a good Festivus for the rest of us now that the meeting is over?
Cool. Yeah, thank God. Now I can start recuperating my bank account.
and our waistline. Time to hit the gym again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so many good desserts, and heart has only so many beats, so enjoy.
This is true. I mean, I'm just saying sometimes around certain holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter, I definitely get the Romans a little bit more with those vomitoriums.
Oh, yeah.
Just so you can keep on eating the good stuff.
Yeah, if it didn't hurt my throat so much, I'd totally be in. So I'm just going to have to digest it like a normal person.
Yeah, I totally get you that. I'm just not that dedicated. I'm a little too lazy for that. But so for those of you who missed episode 2, Nick, you have talked a lot, obviously, because we've done, what is this, episode 300 and something, almost 400. But for those that are finding us for the very first time, can you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers?
Absolutely. I'm Nick Garber. I'm the president and chief financial officer for Apogee Comics. I'm also an artist and writer within the company. Army vet. I did some time with 2nd Ranger Battalion and in the National Guard with a prestigious light infantry unit, 1st Battalion 184 Infantry Regiment. And I'm currently working for the government. Please don't hate me. I'm not a tax man or anything like that. I'm on the law enforcement side of the house.
He's a G-man. That's what he is.
Wait, I'm a G-man.
Yeah.
G-unit.
All right. And for those of you who don't know how we found them, I don't know. Walt introduced us when we were looking for a co-host because, when you got kids and all that, sometimes you need to be able to go off on a last minute thing. Stuff happens, and having a third host made things work. And you were a veteran, so it worked for us. And then having you in comics gave us sort of a diverse perspective when we interviewed non-bookish things, although I feel like we haven't done enough comics for this.
I know. And I'm like, I guess I'm one of the most stable sounds bad, attainable comic people, schedule-wise, to get on a show. So, like, I that's my goal for this season is get more of my fellow geekery nerddom folks interviewed on here.
Okay. Yeah, we were working on doing more in season 4. That is the plan anyway, to do more comics and stuff. But we've also, because past October, Stabby had us go down the horror train, and I'm just saying the blood trails were horrific. It was dirty, gross, and she wants more of it. She said, I like it. I love it. I want some more of it.
I want more.
All the time.
All the horrors. Horror.
Right. Yeah. We're going to move on before that question gets clipped out of context. So, we've done all the religion questions, the original ones, because, we answer them every time we talk to people and we interject. So I'm going to ask you some comic-related ones. Are you ready for this, sir?
I'm ready. Shoot.
All right. Green Lantern, Guardians of the Galaxy, or Rom Space Knight?
Ooh. You don't hear Rom's name spoken aloud. I love all 3 of those properties, but I have to say, as a kid getting into comics, Rom was probably my favorite, because I'd never seen anything like him before, and he was kind of goofy. It was just a fun comic.
Okay. So what was Rom about? I don't think I've heard of that one other than...
I couldn't tell you, man. I couldn't tell you. I knew he was a robot that fought weird stuff in outer space, hence the Space Knight subtitle or subtitle. He had a cool design. It was very simple. It was very clean. Um, and at a time of being into like Transformers and GI Joe, it just kind of it fit right in that little nook. So, um, yeah, I couldn't tell you squat about a character, which is funny. But of the three listed, I think he was my favorite at the time.
All right, and because we're polytheistic, we're doing the fantasy side with comics again. If you notice the theme, dear listener, so Conan the Barbarian, John Carpenter, Warlord of Mars. Wow, I can speak tonight. Or Battle Chasers.
Oh man, that's a tough one. Conan was awesome because I'd seen the movies. The comic books kind of really went deep into his adventures. You know, as much as they could, because it was produced by Marvel Comics. So like you couldn't have the three-way with the snake charming girls and stuff like that, or some of the gratuitous sex and violence. There was violence. There was some good violence in there, but it was usually against like dragons and stuff like that, creatures. The occasional guy would get ran through. Usually because he was talking smack, he had no manners, and Conan reminded him of that.
Now, I don't know if this is still true, but I know at one point in time, comics had certain oversight which prevented certain violence and stuff.
Yeah, you have the Comic Book Authority Code.
Yeah, do they still apply? Does that still apply?
No, that went out the window. Well, the rumor is that even though they were putting the Comic Book Authority Code on the books, they were violating it because people were asking, well, what's in it? And nobody could give them an answer of what the actual codes were, what were the actual guidelines. It's comes from McCarthy era stuff where they thought like comic books were turning kids gay or turning them into criminals, and just they're blaming it for everything. It's a gateway to communism. It's like, how can you have a gateway to communism? And like Captain America was like the most popular comic when that came out. So
I would think a money-making enterprise that's, hey, spend money to buy a thing you like would be the opposite of communism.
Yeah, that's straight up
market
right? Economy. There's a lot of people in the industry that claim to be communists, but they get mad when they don't make money or don't get a return on their comic book that they made. So I'm like, I don't know if I think they're going to take your red card away, bud.
So they're communists with a capitalist problem. I've met a few of those in the book publishing industry as well.
Yeah, those people usually like Star Trek, but we don't have food replicators yet, so that's why we can't reach that utopia.
Even if we've talked about this a few times when we talk Trek, but even if we had that utopia, I don't think it would go the way they think. Only because humanity is just, we're meant to do things to work, and if you take away the ability to strive for things, I think it would be the death of the human population. You'd be floating flat blobs.
Yeah, like in Wall-E. You see it in with retirees, because we're purpose-driven creatures. You see it a lot in law enforcement. Usually the old adage is like you'll die after 5 years of being retired because you're not doing anything. You like rationalize yourself like, hey, I did this stuff for 20, 30 years. I was constantly on the go. I was constantly doing this. I was chasing bad guys. And then now you don't have a purpose anymore. So most of them sit on the couch, watch daytime TV, drink beer all afternoon, and then, yeah, the heart's going to run out because you don't have a purpose anymore. I think that's what keeps you alive.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who were convinced that they would literally drop dead the minute they retired. So they go in from the military to the post office or whatever. Just something.
Yeah, anything. Yeah, like even a hobby, like everybody's got hobbies. Take a more active interest in that hobby, because now you got time. Turn that into a part-time job or a full-time job that you enjoy, and you get to be your own boss. They'll definitely keep you alive for a while.
Yeah. All right. And because we are civilized human beings, at least Stabby tries to make us that way. Coffee or tea, and how do you take it? Wait. We asked him that one already in other episodes. I got it. Favorite energy drink?
Monster Ultra Sunrise. It's like
not Red Bull.
I was a Red Bull guy for a while, and when they started making different flavors, I enjoy those too. But I don't know what it is. I know what it is. Like the flavor of the Monsters is good, and they come in a bigger can. And you got to trust an energy drink that you drink one, and then you go to CVS and stick your arm in the blood pressure machine, and all the bells and whistles go off, and it's telling you should probably seek emergency help quick.
Yeah, and the funny thing is you can track a man's service in the military by what energy drink he's drinking because they cycle. Like when we were there, Red Bull was the thing, but Monster was barely out, and I don't think there was any of the other coffee flavored ones that came around. Rip It and stuff. Those came later. So it was Red Bull or nothing when we were in Iraq.
Well, they used to have them in the chow hall in Iraq, and then I would go in there, and the cargo pockets and the trousers will hold 6 Red Bulls.
So I used to because as the convoy commander, or it's convoy commander, as the security commander for the convoy, I interfaced with all the TCNs we were escorting. So I would sometimes liberate stuff from the mess hall for them because KBR did not treat them very well. And so I used to come bearing the energy drinks, and they'd get all jittery, and they're like, "Oh, you're better than Alibaba." I don't know if that was an insult or a compliment, but they took the drinks.
No, that means thief. That means thief.
That was a good sergeant. Soldiers and sailors stay off the grass, right?
Yeah. Well, a good NCO will go to any means necessary to make sure their guys are properly fitted for the mission. And Red Bull, we ran on Red Bull and water.
Yep, caffeine and hate. But just for the record, dear listener, there's only one thief in the military. Everyone else is just getting their crap back. There's only one.
Gear adrift is a gift.
Yeah, the Marines taught me that one when they liberated our frickin' tow bars. But we've told that story before.
Oh,
we got them even too. I'm just saying, a little bit of guide on in the porta potty action going on. All right, so you've got a favorite energy drink. Do you cycle through them seasonally, or is it all the time?
It's every day. It's like my glass of OJ.
No. I mean, like, do you cycle flavors and what you like?
Every so often they come up with a new flavor. Like when watermelon came out, that was pretty good, but it wasn't good for breakfast. That's what I liked about Ultra Sunrise is that it tastes like orange juice. So if it's in my brain, it rationalized it as, hey, it's practically orange juice, so it's good for you.
Fair.
The watermelon flavor is good. Oh, they have a Granny Smith apple one now.
Ooh, I do like Granny Smith apples.
It's got the same tartness as eating that apple, and it comes in a green can. I just call it, give me a green can, because the name they give it doesn't fit the flavor.
Whatever works. So, we've interviewed you before, but it's been a while. Not everyone went back to the beginning, but you just said obviously that you were in the Army. So how do you feel like your time in the Big Green Weenie affects the way you tell stories as both a comic book creator and an author? Because you were both.
I would say the Army gives you lots of opportunities for dealing with traumatic stuff through either gallows humor or getting focused into other things. So for me, that was creating things. So experiences in the Army allowed me to flesh out a lot of my characters and create new characters based on my experiences, and kind of give them personas based off some of the cool people that I met along the way, and some of the not cool people. Obviously, they're villains.
Okay, so
being in the Army.
Speaking of the cool people and the not so cool people, do you ever draw from people you served with?
Yes, I do. Sometimes there'll be an amalgamation of like 3 people or 4 people. Sometimes it's them to a T. So I got 2 characters in my Phantom Hawk series. They're both detectives, and they're Downs and Gonzo are their names. Downs is based off a buddy of mine when we were in Iraq. He was one of my team leaders, one of my subordinate dudes. But we find out in the deployment that we're like 4th cousins twice removed, and he had like the same last name as my my mother's maiden name. So to a T, optimistic, hopeful, in shape. Even the same tattoo that the character has is tattooed on his arm. So, and then there's Gonzo, he was a tall, well, he's still tall, but he was kind of like he was a fit dude, but he wasn't huge. like muscular. Like he was a tall guy. He worked admin, probably the toughest admin dude I ever met. And in between deployments, because the guard is kind of like a task force almost. You know, it goes and it deploys, and we get back, and people go to different units and whatever. Well, when I linked up with him again in Kosovo, he's just this yoked monster. You know, and I'm like, what the hell, Gonzo? What happened? He's like, what do you mean, what happened? I'm like, are you sure that's you? He's like, yeah, that's me. I'm like, no, you were the thing that ate him, because you were just like specimen, dude. Like, what the hell? So he got really into fitness. He really got into religion. So, and we called him Puerto Rican Rock because that's what he looked like. He's from the Bronx, New York. His ethnicity is Puerto Rican. He speaks super fast Spanish. You know, but he started shaving his head, so we called him Puerto Rican Rock. So drew that in the comic books, and then Downs, I gave him longer hair. He usually had like a pretty high fade, but like his hair would be long on top. So I just grew the hair on the rest of his head.
Okay, I dig it. Okay, so 2001, Stabby wrote in the sidebar. She could have said it, but she's muted and forgot where the button was. So they ended the Comics Code in 2001 officially. Okay, that's good to know, because we were talking about that with the Marvel. So you mentioned, obviously, we've talked about this, how your time in the Army affected the way you create content and the stories you tell. Do you feel like it affects the way you engage with both comics and media of other venues, books, movies, that sort of thing, as a consumer?
Yeah. I try to keep, like, if there's any type of military thing that's going on in any of the books, and I try to put at least one vet in every title, because I want that connection still. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, I try to make it as accurate as possible, because I know, like me, when I watch a lot of stuff that has military action in it, if it's not accurate, I'm annoying Stabby here by going, oh, that's not accurate. Nope, that wouldn't happen. You know, but I do tiptoe on the line where you got to like suspend disbelief for a little bit, because it's a comic book after all. Yeah, as a consumer, I try to put myself in the consumer's shoe, and I think that probably what makes my books kind of it makes them successful, and it retains readership. So, and that's all stuff that I learned in the military. Like, if you can do something, do it right. And then on the business side of the house, it's kept me very organized, task based. I write op orders instead of memos, you know, about how I want to accomplish stuff. So, yeah, my time in the military definitely helped me out with that, and how I tell a story, how I write a story, and mostly it's accuracy, and I want it to be believable. So,
Okay. All
as
right.
much as you can, you know, because it's still a comic book. It's still guys that fly and break walls with their bare hands.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, if you get too close to accurate, you're going to bore people, because they want some of the, like, for instance, if you do proper radio protocol when you're writing into comics, like, you can make a nod at real, but if you do it exactly right, people are going to be like, all right, they're out for the count. So you have to Hollywoodize it a little bit to make it entertaining,
Yeah, you kind of got to know where you can bend the reality part for the reader. And it takes a lot of planning too, because I got to run it by somebody that is military adjacent, like a spouse or something like that. I'm like, hey, could you read this? And then they're like, oh, wow, that's really cool. And can guys really do that? I'm like, absolutely not. But I needed it because it furthered the plot and it added tension. Yeah, so yeah, reading groups, friends and family, and I got to remind them, be as harsh as you possibly can be. Don't hurt. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm trying to make a better product, and the only way to do that is by tearing me down, or tearing the work down if it's not working for you. So
there's a way to help and to do that without being a jerk too, because sometimes
right,
you go in hard jerk mode, like you're it's counterintuitive to. I mean, there's a line in there. Obviously, as veterans, we've got thick skin, but
Yeah, and yeah, there's definitely a line. My mom was probably my most strict critic. Like she pulled no punches when she told me like, "Hey, this doesn't make sense because I read this here in page 2, and then this is happening in page 22, and it's not jiving because what happened in between those 2 points." I'm like, "Oh shit, you're right." So then I got to go in there and add a couple of pages and take some pages out that she'd be like, "Oh yeah, this page isn't working. It really doesn't add to the story. I don't know why it's in there." And it's like, because I needed to fill up 22 pages to make a full comic book, Mom. Well, do better. I'm like, "Thanks, Mom."
okay.
So she was like that with my homework growing up too. It's like, "No, but the assignment said just do this." She's like, "Do better." Okay, I'll add some stuff.
Okay. Does she still read? Oh, never mind.
I'm sure she's looking down from the afterlife. Yeah.
That was an instinctual. I'm sorry, I knew that.
Yeah. If she could get a message to me on some of my editing, she would definitely send it.
I can just see you now going to like one of those palm reader tarot card ladies. She's like, I've channeled your mom, and she said, "Do better."
Yeah. Does do better mean anything to you? Oh, she also told me to do this and then slap me across the face.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I taught
Okay.
you business
Well,
better than that.
we're gonna transition from talking about you to talking about Apogee. So
Okay.
we're gonna show this really cool graphic. That's how you know he means business. He's got a logo that goes boom in the background.
You got to have a logo that goes boom.
That's right. All right. So Apogee Comics. So before we do that, though, because the journey starts with the first step. How did you discover comics? Because you didn't just wake up one day and be like, I'm going to make a publishing company for comics. You had to start, I'm assuming, as a reader.
I did. I did start off as a reamer. Oh God, reader. Now it's on me, Jr. Now it's on me. As a reader, I got really sick when I was a kid. I got like a really bad case of the flu. It was during the wintertime. My dad was in construction. So, yeah, when it's raining in California, no constructing is getting done. So, so I was sick. I was watching TV downstairs. He ran up to the local drugstore just up the street. I had to go pick up some stuff for me. And then he likes to go get his cream soda, his A&W cream soda. And that was like the only place within the vicinity that would sell an A&W cream soda. And then he'd bring me back like a Sprite, something like that. And he hit the spinner rack and he pulled out every comic book that was in that spinner rack. And like I was a casual comic book fan. I wasn't really collecting. I was barely reading it. I watched the cartoons. I watched the movies, things like that. But the first one on the stack was an issue of Daredevil. And I was like, okay. So it was on top. You're the first one I'm reading. Fell in love with it. I read it till I had to get a second copy of it because I read the damn pages out of it. So became a huge Daredevil fan after that. And that just started the bug, man. I wanted to know more about comics. And then I was hanging around the comic book shops on the weekends and talking to other like older fans. Are like, oh man, you're into this? Oh, well, you got to go check out these issues right here. Actually, it's right here in these long boxes over here. These older books. So I had the bug. Every dime I made, I was in that comic book store spending my money. And then I also drew. I've been drawing as long as I can remember, since I ever picked up a crayon. And then so my drawings went from whatever the hell I was drawing at the time to superheroes. And I was doing what every kid does when he starts making up superheroes. You have the most generic superhero ever. I'm going to give this guy a rocket pack and a helmet. I'm going to call him Rocket Man. And then I'm going to make this guy Meta Man. Well, what does that mean? I don't know. I read in a comic book. So I was doing all these drawings, all these superhero drawings, and I kept getting better. And then when I got to high school, image became a big thing. My favorite artist from Marvel decided hey, we're going to make a company. I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever. Yeah, dude. And they were successful. And I'm like, man, that is awesome. You've never seen that before, just three dudes decide like they go to Marvel, tell them they quit. They go to literally across the street to DC Comics, tells them that they won't work for them, and listed the reasons why, which were the same reasons they gave to Marvel when they left. And they're like, and they're all those big publishers are like, you're going to fail. You guys will be back to us in about a year, and then we're going to pay you lower for leaving us. And Spawn is one of the longest running independent comic books. It's got a huge readership. Todd McFarlane has built that into a financial empire with his toys and comic books and merch. Those guys became the blueprint for indie comics. So when I started getting that bug, and it wasn't just a kid going, "Oh, I want to be a comic book artist when I grow up," it became a serious obsession for me. I'd get up early in the morning and I'd draw. And then I played sports up until my senior year in high school. So I would go to school and I'm thinking about comics and I'm doodling my notebook and I'm creating stuff and I'm getting yelled at by teachers. Hey, Nick, you might want to pay attention to this. And I'm like, I'm not going to need this. I'm going to be a comic book artist. And, she'd be like, okay, that's like being an actor. And I'm like, okay, bet. So, and then right after practice, I'd come home, do some time with the parental units, have dinner, and then I'd be upstairs at the drawing table drawing until I just couldn't keep my eyelids open anymore. So
Okay.
that's pretty much the story of how I picked up a copy of Daredevil when I was 8 years old, and now I'm fanatically obsessed with the genre and the business side of it.
So towards that, obviously you started doing your own comics. Did you try to get into the business by writing for like Marvel or DC, or did you go straight indie?
I never wanted to be a writer. That's something I had to learn to do as just a necessity. I had submitted my portfolio a couple of times to Marvel. They said, "You got promise, kid, keep going." But I also had another goal in my life that I wanted to do, and that kind of slowed things down. I joined the Army. I wanted to do cool guy shit and jump out of airplanes and blow stuff up. I wanted to do the stuff that they make movies out of. So, I did that for active duty for 4.5 years, and then I knew I would miss it. So I stayed in the Guard for another 13, did some cool stuff there. And thank God I did that, because of the characters that I had created. They had no substance, no real substance to them. It's like nobody would care about these characters, about just some lone adventurer that goes from city to city and looks for crime and gets himself into adventures. No one's going to believe that. Doesn't make sense. Who does that? I had no substance for him, and that was Phantom Hawk. And he didn't have a cape or any of that. He had like 2 giant desert eagles that were hooked up to like this quick draw arm apparatus and a backpack, and he had a trench coat. And it was cheesy as hell. So
cheesy has its place.
Cheesy has its place, but it's like I knew deep inside that that's not where I wanted this character to go. I hadn't. If you ever created something that you're just like infatuated with, you're like, man, I can't believe I did that, and I want to make this thing better and better and better and better. And he became my focal point for character creation. If I can get this guy's look down, I can do other characters and achieve the same thing. So, I mean, I have like a huge box filled with old drawings, like probably like 100 sketchbooks, maybe more, back, front to back on the pages, just with sketches and drawings and character creation. So,
okay.
Is there more to that? Did I answer the question? I don't know if I did.
Yeah, mostly. So you started, obviously you went indie almost right away, and you had to learn how to do your own writing for it. Right. Did you start writing for other people's company, or did you jump right in and just start your own?
Just started my own. When it was not too long after I got back from Kosovo, I was doing some drawings there, trying to keep my craft going. using government equipment to scan and email these things to me so I could put them into Photoshop and color them and make them look pretty. I've never written for anybody else except for you. I had to learn how to be a writer. So I bought a bunch of books, like How to Write Comics the Marvel Way, How to Write Comics the DC Way. And I was taking notes. And how we got to that point was I was just turned 30. Yeah, I just turned 30. And all my life, because of my artwork, people were like, oh, you should draw a comic book. You should draw a comic book. And here I am in my 30s. And I'm like, I've never even attempted to do that. So, and I told this story the last time, which was years ago. I locked myself in my studio office, whatever. And I was in there for about 2 days. I mean, obviously I left to go to work and things like that, eat, sleep. But every minute of available time was in there writing stories. And then once I got that done, I started drawing them. We just transitioned from MySpace to Facebook. So the groups hadn't shown up yet, the fan groups, the professionals groups, of like, writers getting together, sharing notes, artists getting together, sharing notes, things like that. Those things hadn't popped up yet. And so I was like, man, I don't even know how to approach this, how to do it, how to get it printed. I knew nothing of the business. And so I'd written 2 issues. I'd drawn 1.5 issues. I finally finished up the second issue in 2012. And one of my buddies is like, so who's the publisher? I'm like, well, I'm the publisher. And I'm like, well, you should probably have a name. I'm like, shit, I didn't even think about that. I should probably have a name. So at the time, I came up with Blackjack Comics. That was going to be the publishing company. And I never intended for me to publish anybody else's stuff. It was just going to be my stuff. All by my lonesome. I didn't care how long it was going to take to get these stories out or get these books out. I was just going to do it. Then I go to my first con. I sell out of both books. I did like a print run of like 50 each. And they sold out in that weekend. Most of it on the first day. I had like scraps left. So the only thing I could offer on that second day at the convention was like commissions. I didn't have posters. I didn't have prints. I didn't have trading cards. I didn't have any of the stuff that I have now. So, but just through Google research, I found a place that prints comic book size stuff, and they were trying to make a name for themselves, and they were in Sacramento, which is where I was living. So I could just drive over there after I emailed them the copy, and when they were ready, and pick them up. So, and then Blackjack fell apart. Always choose your business partners wisely. So, because it wasn't too long after that first con, I moved to Texas, and then it felt like I had to start all over again. But my business partner that was out in California was not representing the company very well. And then when I asked them to leave, they refused to leave. So I was like, all right, fine. Well, I guess I'm starting a new company. And that's what I did.
Okay. And that ended up with Apogee. How did you pick the name Apogee?
Apogee was a merger between 2 companies. The comic book company I was trying to get off the ground at the time was called Guerrilla Comics, and I had the logo was it was Che Guevara, but as a skull and a beard.
Okay.
I don't know why I did that. I thought it was funny, so I was like, that's gonna be funny. People are gonna enjoy that. And then I spelled comics with an X, but that was getting confusing. Like, is this like adult comics? I'm like, no, I didn't put 2 other X's there. It's just the one. So I met up with some dudes in St. Louis at a convention, and they had, at the time, one of the owners, Dave Norton, of that company, had the same type of goal I did. I wanted to create something like Image. I wanted to have a company that owned nothing, and it was just made up by separate studios. So obviously the company would get its cut, and it would put its brand on everything that was on these books, and just like Image did. So it was like on the first meeting, like, well, we need a name, guys. And we're like, well, maybe something with an A. I'm like, oh, we decided to get into like Previews magazine, for the listing. That's where local comic book shops order their books, is from Previews or Diamond distributors. Hey, if we put our name, if we're an A, we're gonna be right at the top. And I'm like, that's a good idea. All right, so we start coming up with names. They were horrible. They were horrible. And then Jay Sloan he goes, well, how about this? And because we're all doing this through chat. And I'm like, Apogee? What the hell is Apogee? I'm like, hey, we need to get a video call, man. So get a quick video call in. I'm like, is it pronounced Apogee? He's like, no, Apogee. It's like the height of a satellite in its orbit. Like it's the highest peak of its orbit. I'm like, man, that sounds really cool. So I went to work on creating the logo because that's the next thing we needed. So I'm like, well, half the company is from St. Louis. The other half of the company is in Texas. So I'm like trying to incorporate the arch in St. Louis and the Texas Star. And some of them, well, obviously you can see the logo we came up with. That was the best one because it felt iconic. It felt Image. It felt independent. It felt, I don't know, it really popped because it was clean and it was simple. Like some of the other designs that I had were just way too intricate. I just literally put the arch on top of a Texas Star. And then I started remembering like some of the lessons I had in college and art school. I was like, okay, I need to try and simplify this, but I can also, it doesn't have to be the arch. It could just be the A, and then I can do this and I can do that, because a lot of times less is more. And that's how we got to the Apogee A. So it was just a couple guys just talking it out until we were able to come up with a name, and then from the name, the logo.
Okay. All right. Speaking of names and logos, we're going to let you graciously sponsored the show today, and we're going to play that beautiful commercial and then jump right back in.
Apogee Comics. People still call it that. It's pretty funny.
Wait, they still mispronounce it that way?
Yeah, it's not a name I had ever heard of before until I had to look it up. So.
Okay. Well, I heard it from you, so.
Yeah.
But,
yep.
Pogues love too, so.
I don't know if it's that type of Pogue, but.
So what kind of formal training did you have to do to improve your art?
I was trying to be a graphic designer in college. That's the program I was in. It was an art degree with a focus in graphic art and design. And that was the first and only formal training I'd ever had. So, like, I did things and they made sense to me on how I did them, but now I had the formal training. I had I get the terminology and the meaning behind stuff. For me, it just made sense. There's a reason why I don't put the action on a center frame because it's boring, because that just made sense to me. But come to find out, it's psychology, it's visual effects inside the brain. People find it more interesting when the camera's tilted just a bit and then moved off from the center, and that would create tension and it would create drama and action. So I was the only formal training I ever had was in college. So all they did was give me the names to the stuff I was already doing. And it gave me a crap ton of practice of drawing. I took traditional illustration classes. I took some painting classes, aside from the computer generated stuff that I was doing. I was using, analog techniques. I learned how to do the stuff that I was doing in the computer traditionally, using the color palette to create layers that would change the color, and getting them ready for actual print on a press. So I would say that's the only real formal training I had was in college. Everything else was either through trying to replicate comic book pages that I saw, or there was an old book called How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. I think it came out in the 70s. I still have my first issue, my first edition, and it's still together, thank God. But, yeah, that's really the only formal training I ever had.
Okay, so do you you talked about you publish yourself, and that's where Apogee came from. And I know the answer to these, obviously, but not everyone at home does. But do you publish other people, or are you still just a one man shop?
It's still, well, I wouldn't say a one man shop. There's other people like Stabby here. She's the chief of operations for the company. I have writers and things like that. I've tried to branch out and publish other people's stuff, and I have um, on a as a business venture. It didn't really work out well for the company. Um, that and they were sometimes you get people that don't understand like contracts and rules. So it's like, yeah, you're my publisher, and then they would go out and want to do like crossover events with another comic. I'm like, okay, well now we got to start thinking like business people, like who's going to pay for the books, who's paying for the art, because this is an unauthorized crossover, and it's not like I'm trying to be in control because I thought it was a good idea, but like nobody wants to think about how it's going to get done. They're just like, oh, let's do this, and then well, someone's got to pay for it.
Logistics will get you every time.
Yeah, so you got to have logistics. You got to be able to fund the dang thing, because just because we're a company and we're a company that's good in good standing, um, they I don't know, artists seem to think that you're just sitting on a tower of money like Scrooge McDuck, and be like, oh well, I only need like $6,000. I'm like, well, the bank account's at $3, so because we need our next Kickstarter or whatever, or we need a con, not a con, but go to a convention and sell comic books so we can replenish some of that money in the bank account. So it's not all about drawing pretty pictures. You got to think about it from a business aspect too. So until I can figure out the proper wording in the contract, I'm not going to publish anybody else's stuff
Okay.
until I can get that hammered out.
So it's just you and I think Renee. We've interviewed him with was it Solarian Prime that he was on?
No, Bengali.
Bengali, yeah. He's so
Yeah.
it's just you and him then, or is there anybody else involved in the company?
There's Rich Parada. He's an artist. He works on Bengali. He's out in England, originally from Staten Island. He used to work. He started out as an inker for Marvel, and then he did stuff for DC Comics and Image Comics as well. So as an inker, he's well known in the game, and now he's building his pedigree as a penciler.
Okay, so what does all that mean? What are the different parts of a comic?
Well, there's like 4 stages, in creating a book, at least the art stuff. So you have a penciler, and he's the one he's the main guy. He draws every panel, every page, to the best of his ability. And then once those pages are done, it gets sent to an inker. And a lot of people call them tracers. They're not tracers. Even though they do go over the original artwork, but they do embellish and add things to it, depth and shade and things like that. So after that's done, it'll go to the color artist, the colorist. Now, these are guys that have just a brilliant mind as far as dealing with colors and color palettes. So they read the script, this particular page called "It's All at Night." Well, then they masterfully depict it at night using color. And they'll also be the ones that are kind of putting like the special effects in, not the kapows and the bangs and stuff like that. That goes to the letterist. But as far as tone of that page, that's what they add. And then it'll go to the letter artist or letterer as we call them. And they're the ones that put in the captions, the thought balloons, the pows, the whizzes, the bangs. Even though it's a visual medium, they still have to kind of fit in those parameters of making it interesting and stylistic. So it's not just putting stuff where it needs to go. Like they have to consider like, well, if I put this word balloon here, it's going to cover up a lot of art, and I don't want to do that. So they have a hard task as well. There's not one easy task in all those 4 jobs, you know. And then after that's done, it gets reviewed by an editorial staff. And once they sign off on that, then it goes to press. It goes to the printers to get made into a comic book.
Okay. So speaking of comic books, like you obviously you started off as an artist and you still do the artist outside of the publishing. Do you still draw it by hand the old fashioned way? Or are you now going high tech? Are you doing hollow?
I do both. There's a lot of speed in doing it digitally because there's just so many tools in these programs. You know, like if I have to create a cityscape in depth, you know, using perspective, there's tools in there that allow me to do that much quicker than sitting at my drawing table, creating a grid by hand, sketching out the vanishing point and doing all that. So if I do it digitally, excuse me, there's a lot of tools inside the program that allow me to do that a lot quicker, where I don't have to worry about using a rule to draw a straight line on these things. You know, the computer system will let me just, okay, what angle do you want this to draw? And then I just move the stylus across the screen and it makes it happen. If I make a mistake, I just Option Z it, or Control Z for you PC people.
Okay. So how many times a day does Madam Stabby Stab threaten to cut you to get you motivated to get those pages done?
She really doesn't have to threaten me with violence. It's like getting me away from the table is what usually requires threatening with violence. So she's very encouraging. She's very supportive in what I do, because we'll talk about, you know, things that I need to get done during the week. And she's really good at, like, if it slips my mind, I decide to sit on the couch as soon as I get home and have a beverage and try and relax. She's like, just want to let you know that you got stuff to draw. I'm like, you know what, you're absolutely right. Give me 10 minutes and I'll get in there. So, and then a lot of times she'll come in here and sit with me and we'll just BS and whatnot while I'm working on stuff. And they'll have her come take a look at what I'm working on and make sure it makes sense to her and that nothing looks funky. So, yeah, not a whole lot of threat and violence getting into the studio. It's coming out of it.
Okay, so Stabby, do you do a lot of interactions with the customers then, or do you just literally do the logistics in the back?
So I mainly just do the logistics in the back unless we're at a con. If we're at a Comic-Con, I get to leave the table. They have to sit at the table. They have to talk to the customers. They have to talk about the comics. They get to do all of that stuff, whereas I get to go and wander around and make connections with other comic book companies, with managers and other publishers, different comic book stores. So I get to do that side of things, which I find it actually very fun. So really, at the end of the day, like, I don't talk to a lot of the customers, but if you get a package from Apogee Comics, just know that I'm the one that packed it up. I'm the one that put it in its new Gemini box. I made sure that you got your sticker, that you got your trading card, that everything is nice and sealed and protected from USPS, and that
Nick, you're muted, so you're gonna if you don't mute, you're gonna bounce back and forth. There we go.
Sorry, of course I have it.
So yeah, when you get your package, that was me. I made sure that everything was sealed, protected. We all know how the post office can be with packages sometimes, so I make sure it says fragile on it. It says do not bend. Like, that's me. I'm making sure that your comics are arriving to you exactly how they should be. And if you're ever at a Comic-Con with us, you have to catch me in between runs, because normally I am at our booth, and then I'm at somebody else's booth, and then I'm at somebody else's booth. So you need to catch me when I just happen to be at our booth if you want to meet Stabby, because she's always on the run, making connections and finding people.
Okay. All right. So when it comes to your comics, Nick, so we've talked a little bit about like the business side of things, but could you give us an overview of the type of comics stories that you tell and publish, and some of maybe your big characters?
We dab into a lot of things. Well, eventually we're going to try and get like a fantasy book going, but right now it's the capes and cowls and superheroes, Our heavy hitters right now are the Phantom Hawk, Crimson Guardians, which we just did an announcement not too long ago that has been discontinued. So you have an issue of that, consider a one shot. And then we got some space opera stuff going on with Solarum Prime. So we leave Earth. We come back every once in a while, but we leave Earth as that hero's journey progresses, and then we have Bengali, which kind of deals with the dark and mystical and occult and Cthulhu old god type stuff, or old ones type stuff. And then not too long after this episode airs, we should have Quickwire, which is our speedster. And if you don't know what a speedster is, think of the Flash or Quicksilver. This guy's name is Quickwire, and he's going to operate in the Dallas area, and he's going to be an older teenager, like college freshman age. So there's a lot of humor in that, which is something that you tend to expect from a speedster. But this guy's just a naturally funny dude, and it uses the vernacular of the current American teenager, so to speak. Like for real, or that issue was bussin', on God, that was almost hands, my guy. Stuff like that.
Bruh.
So the types of stories that we tell, first of all, they got to be interesting. I mean, I guess that kind of goes without saying. We're not trying to preach to you or anything like that. We're not trying to cram stuff down your throat and be preachy about it, because a lot of comics are like that. Well, mainstream comics are a lot like that today. There's a lot of subtext, a lot of allegory, so there are things that are going on in the world today that we kind of touch on, but it's a point in the plot. It's not the plot. So, and we pride ourselves on providing action-based entertainment. The pages should be as visually stunning as the story is. So that's one of the things we pride ourselves on, is making sure that the artwork is quality. That's overall a quality book. It's quality. There's quality in the writing. There's quality in the artwork, and to make it all tie together. So, because it is a shared universe with all these characters. They all have some 6 degrees of, Kevin Bacon, or what I call 6 degrees of Phantom Hawk going on, because he was the first one. So I like to use him as like the everyman view, even though he's not typically an everyman, but he's when he started out, he was fighting mob bosses and drug dealers and stuff and trying to reclaim his humanity. Now he is trading blows with demons, or he's fighting with a man that can leave the planet without a ship, and then it's going to get even more interesting when aliens start showing up. And it's like, okay, so I fought alongside a talking panda bear that works for the government, which I thought was weird enough. Then I fought demons next to a bird guy that looks like a cardinal. And then I fought a demon, and then I helped a demon. And, so he's still trying to like compartmentalize the stuff he's seen over the course of his time as a vigilante or superhero. And then we got this lovely cover here too. So
it's a sample of the work. I thought it'd be kind of cool because to show you art style. This one was entirely done digitally, and forgive me, it's not the full size JPEG.
Yeah,
grabbed it quickly off Amazon, but just some of what you can do, like with
that was fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun to do. And I do stuff like this does make me try to step outside my traditional, my style, my known style, um, and work with some other things. I know I talk a lot of shit about AI, but I used some AI backgrounds for that particular piece. I drew over them because every time I was trying to draw it, it just my brain was not, my hand wasn't doing the printer stuff like my brain told it to. So I was like, okay, what if I use the right prompts, get this background, and then I will do my own thing to it so it's actually mine as opposed to me just using a picture and throwing it in there.
Yeah.
Add stuff, take stuff, that's like the only thing that I'll say about AI art is that it can be a wonderful tool if used ethically. I think where a lot of people get wrapped around the axle is that they'll just put in the prompts and then just post it as if they had drawn it themselves, not knowing that AI searches everywhere and steals pieces from here, and there. Like so many pieces where it looks like it's original art, but it's not,
Yeah, and like we said, we actually, so this is season 4. We talked about this at the end of season 3 episode, but one of the issues we're going to tackle this season is the AI conversation has come up a lot. People for it, people against it, lots of strong opinions. So Nick and I are going to get some guests that are pro AI in both the visual and writing mediums, and then those that are against it. But we were afraid that if we put them on the podcast together, they'd be talking at or over each other instead of just getting their ideas out. So Stabby got the brilliant idea. We would split them into 2 different episodes. As an artist himself, and Nick definitely has some strong opinions about, AI imagery. I guess I'm a little bit lucky. The AI writing side is not very good right now. You can definitely tell the difference. It has no soul in it when you read it.
Yeah.
So it's not going to put me out of a job anytime soon, but it's a little bit different, I think, for visual artists. So it's definitely going to be an interesting conversation that is in the works. We're working on getting together our guest list for that. Because it's such a hot button issue, a lot of people don't want to go on the record one way or another. And I respect, why you would want to stay neutral on.
Yeah, because there's people with pitchforks out there on both sides of the aisle, man. I'm like,
right, but I think it'll be an interesting conversation. But I definitely think it hits your medium a lot harder than it's hitting mine right now. There is some work in the some programs in the works that will, if they try to skim images through the search algorithms and they come across your image, if you do it right, you can upload something into your image that will destroy and corrupt their files. So they're
a virus. That's essentially a virus.
I mean, they don't call it that because virus is such a negative connotation, but basically. So I definitely think it'll be interesting. But back to Apogee. So you've talked about the superheroes that you published. I know you've talked about branching out into other things. So can you tell us about some of the other things you're looking at publishing?
Yeah, the other branches, branches that you're branching out. They're branches because they branch from us. I'm doing a speech from a political figure.
I'm like 40 minutes past the coffee cup being empty, right? Don't hate me.
Yeah, don't hate me. We would like to start doing novelizations of our characters. I think that adds something to it because a writer can add more detail to it. He's not confined to the visual medium. He can use his prose, his ideas, his descriptions. He can. I'd like to say he could flesh out the world more, and I think that would coincide well with the visual, which is the comic book, and then you have someone writing a novel could do like this epic, type story, which I'm not saying we don't do that in comic books, but it takes a while to get there because we're using it, very little information and making it a visual medium. We got to tell the story by pictures, so like a comic book. I mean, there's not a whole lot of writing going on there. There's a description that's, from the writer of what he kind of hopes to see, his vision of how that sequence is going to work out, and the artist is doing the best he can, where if he's writing a novelization, he can put in all those full details, the squint of the hero's eyes, the sweat coming off his brow to, his heart rate, he can feel his heart rate increasing, things like that. If I tried to put all that information in a comic book, it'd be a hot mess.
Yeah.
I like the effects of his heart going while I'm trying to focus on his eyeball. And, it's just two different types of writing. A comic book is written almost like a screenplay for a movie. It's like, here's enough information, and then it's up to the director to do the best he can. So I'd like to do that. I'd like to get into doing some fantasy type books. I was excited. I was going to do a Western a couple of years ago, but the creative team backed out. And it would have been hilarious because the title alone is what wanted me to produce that comic book for these guys, get it going. It was called the Ballad of Dusty Tortillas.
I heard that one on a podcast. Somebody else talked about it.
Yeah. They went on a couple of podcasts when we were pre-promoting it, hyping it up in the business, as they say, when we were hyping it up. I was only like 4 pages in, and then they decided to do it on their own, and they wanted a different artist, and they wanted this and they wanted that. They wanted these things that I was like, okay, they're still friends of mine. I was like, hey, if you feel that's the best way for your property to go, then, I'm not going to hate you for it. And there's no hard feelings. I'm just saying I'm a little disappointed because I really wanted to draw that damn book.
Yeah.
So I would like to do some classic 50s sci-fi type stuff.
Buck Rogers is going public domain in 2025. You could go with Buck Rogers.
I actually have, you can make those web-based counters of when that happens.
Yeah.
It's like I got one saved so I can do Buck Rogers. I think that'd be fun. I would like to do some other public domain stuff, because there's a lot of cool characters where if you gave them a little bit of a revision of their costume, I think they do very well. Black Terror is one that's been doing really well recently. He was public domain in like the 30s or 40s. I think it was the 30s, like 32, like the age of the comic book,
Right.
Yeah, it was really cool stuff. So there's a lot of stuff I'd like to branch out into it, but just like anything else in the creative medium, it's time and money.
So obviously you can do Kickstarters and GoFund My Comics and all the whatever the Patreon-esque versions out there for crowdfunding are.
Yes.
But all in, for those that don't know, what does the average comic cost you to produce?
Oh, well,
how high is up, but
I had the numbers written down, like specifically what it was going to cost, and it all determines on what the rates are of your creative team, because they're all going to charge you different stuff. So let's just work the math real quick if we got time. So actually, let's not even do that. It's going to take too much time. Let me surmise. There's not enough time. Let me speed up. I'd say the average comic book on the indie scene is probably going to run you somewhere around $5,000.
Okay.
So that's your pencils. Those are going to be the most expensive part. If you get an artist that does pencils and inks and gives you a discount, of course that helps. The colors is going to run you between $30 and $50 a page. The letter is going to run you, if he's a good letter, he's going to run you about $25 a page. Then you got the printing of the comic book, which is going to run you, depending on standard 22-page floppy, takes about $2.68 per copy. Of course, the more copies you order, the lower the price goes, and you have to start ordering stuff in like the hundreds before you start getting a price reduction. So I would just say on average, it's going to run you about $5,000, anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000, depending what the rates are on your art team, your creative team. I mean, the writer alone is going to be anywhere between $15 and $50 a page, and if it's a 22-page floppy, that's guaranteed, $50 for 22 pages.
Okay, so cost is a barrier to entry. Do you foresee at any point in time maybe going grayscale, like the black and whites? Does that have a room? I know manga does it. I know graphic novels.
Yeah, I mean, you can, but I think if you're going to do grayscale other than a money-saving technique, I think it has to be an artistic thing.
Okay.
It has to feed into the story. It has to be a part of the story. I mean, even doing grayscale, and we're talking strict black and white, because you have to do grayscale. And even some printers will they'll charge you a full color price. So it's really, like, do I do that? Now, I've done stuff in the past. I called it my sketch cover edition. So the interior sequential pages were just the original line art, the black and white stuff. And then I would I put the masthead and the logos and all that stuff on the cover. But it was a type of paper you can actually draw on, and we call them sketch covers. So what I usually do with cons is that I will produce like 25 of those, because that's the minimum order I can do. But I'll put the logo with a con on there and call it, like South Texas Comic Con. I'm a big ally of them. I've been since their first show. I've been a part of that, and I'm friends with the promoter, and we got a great relationship. So I asked them, like, hey, is it cool if I make like a South Texas Comic Con edition comic book? And I put your logo on there, and then I'll mark up the price a little bit, because if you just want the blank, which is nobody draws on it, then that's one price. But if you want me to draw on it, well, then I got to charge you a small commission, and it was a hit when I did that for like 4 years. So there are cheaper avenues, and there's a way you can market it where you actually make more money with those, like the sketch covers, than with just your floppies that are already printed.
Okay. So do you foresee branching out? I know we've talked about it in other episodes in season 3 that you were planning something with King Arthur. So what's going on with that?
That'll actually be a superhero tale. It's based on the Arthur legend. The name of the book is called The Last Pendragon. And in this universe, not to hopefully I don't give too much away. The Pendragons had alien DNA in their bodies, and it reacted to certain metals. So like, he had a helm, he had a sword. Like when he gets a hold of Excalibur, that's made out of alien metal, not on our periodic table. And the powers, like, anybody can wield it, kinda, but it's going to be really, really heavy. So because the main character has that alien DNA, that everyone's going to be like, oh, it's magic, he's the only one that can really lift this thing. And that's kind of his deal in the book, is that, like, if he needs to put his sword up, he just like puts it into a rock, he like just keeps recreating the Arthurian legend. And when he does that and he comes back, there's always like a crowd of people trying to pull the damn sword out. So it's a little inner joke there. So I'm working with a friend of the show, Jana, and her. I don't know if her alter ego is going to get involved and write, but
so do I need to say Jana a few times too, so I can join the Cool Kids Club? Jana.
Yes, Jana,
Wait,
I love you.
Do we have to be like in a bathroom in front of the mirror and like spin in circles too? Is that how this works?
Yeah, I mean, but like, only goodness happens when you do that. It's not like
It's too late in the show to try to summon her. Stop it.
Wouldn't that have been a great gimmick though? She'd been sitting backstage the whole time, and we said that, and then we just added. She's like, "I've been summoned." Oh,
I should edit this out, but I'm not going to, because we don't do that here. But it'd be pretty cool if we edited that out, and then we like.
No, I wish we could have brought her in. And then oh my god, I forgot her name. I am so bad. But there's another friend of the show that
Terry,
yeah. We're going to talk about putting a comic book together now that it's after the holidays. We can probably get something on the books where we can talk about that, because I know she really was interested in trying a new writing form. So, but with Pendragon, it leads to another character called the Regent. I will not give that spoiler away. I will not give that surprise away, because the title of the book says it all. It's The Last Pendragon. And the way we have it set up, it's through years of lineage since the King Arthur legend, there was Pendragons everywhere back in the day. So like there was from India, there was an Indian Pendragon who shared that same bloodline as Arthur. And and then you get a villain, and he wants to wipe them out. and he was searching, he's scouring the earth, finding these Pendragons and putting them to task. Avalon's going to play a big part in it too. There's a lot of things going on there I'm super stoked about. I did put out a book years ago under Blackjack called The Last Pendragon. Some of those villains, some of those plot points will kind of be retained inside the next series, but I'm super stoked about it. He's my British Superman and Superwoman, Supergirl, maybe. Just
if you like Stabby, you were gonna like The Last Pendragon.
spoiler alert: Regent is modeled after Stabby here. So
Want to see Stabby doing Stabby things?
Is there blood?
Not really Stabby stuff, because you're gonna have a mace, a mystical mace,
which is like 18 times Stabby.
Yeah, it's a ball with sharp, pointy things.
It's a ball
for multiple stabbings. So yeah, that's what we got going on with that.
It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun. I'm really excited about that project, and hopefully we can get it out in 2024, if not early 2025.
Okay, that sounds interesting. All right, is there anything else about Apogee that you think the readers need to know other than go buy the comics?
Well, always buy the comics. Make our little slogan is "Make your next comic book Apogee." We are a veteran-owned and operated business. We do make donations to the veteran community. When we get asked to do panels at comic conventions, Apogee will. We're really big on PTSD awareness, and using holistic, psychosomatic pharmacology to deal with it. I've had friends that done that stuff, and it went horribly wrong and ruined lives, multiple lives. So it's not something that I like. I want to find. I've been doing research on alternatives, and turns out the arts, doing something creative and artistic, will combat that, either as a response that has catharsis and kind of like lowering the symptoms or diminishing the symptoms, because something happens inside your brain chemically when you're doing something with your hands and you're creating something. So that's been proven. My own psychologist said that was a great idea. I don't know why most people don't do that. I'm like, it's because you guys don't advocate for that. You guys advocate for narcotics. So there's not a whole lot of money in creating stuff, but there is money in drugs. So I can see why that why they don't want to push that. But every time I do a panel, I'll do an art demo. And when I first started doing it in Southern Texas or South Texas, I got like 1 or 2 veterans, and then by the 4th time I did it, I filled up a panel room, which usually has about somewhere around 100 seats. It's probably the most important I've ever felt in my life.
So the National Endowment for the Arts has a creative forces, veterans focused, well, first responders too.
Yes.
But for getting people into musical arts, I know when I was at the VA, they did a writing as therapy class. So, I mean, it's definitely proven. They do it in small, but this one wasn't funded by the VA. They hosted it, but it was a volunteer English lit professor that ran the class. So, I mean,
I'm trying to get involved with the VA and doing that, at least locally, because I know it always starts out small, and I can't write music. I'm barely can be considered a writer, but I know art, and I know it as well enough to talk about it as it's therapeutic. So
we have all of it in the house.
Oh yeah, I could. If I got invited by a con tonight, I could be there tomorrow with full kit.
Well, no, not just that. Like,
we practice it in the house, is what you're saying. Yeah,
we practice all of it in the house. So, like, I paint and I sing. The kid plays 8 different instruments pretty well on most of them. A couple of them are questionable.
Some of them sound like someone's killing a cat.
Trombones are weird. Then you have you do pencils, you do inks, you do color, you do digital. Like, we have all the aspects in the house.
Yeah.
We have ways to release anxiety
and stress.
and stress.
And I'm pretty comfortable in identifying my triggers, things that are going to set off a PTSD response. So when that happens, she see me do it, I'll just get up and walk in the office and start doodling. Which I think I might draw. No, it's the other way. So you see my drawing table, pieces of it right here. So if I want to do like analog or traditional stuff, I do that.
I think mine will turn better.
So I got stuff on there now because I've been doing mostly digital, and the table is becoming a catch-all for nonsense. So
The table.
Right. Yeah, there's the table. And body armor next to it for some reason. Art's dangerous, man. Sometimes you need body armor.
That was from the.
Oh, that was from the G.I. Joe episode, yeah.
Episode.
That's how lazy I am. I haven't taken and put it in the garage where it belongs.
No, I'm putting it up in here.
Oh, is it? It's going to hang? Emergency body armor?
Up there.
Okay.
Gotta have emergency, because you never know when you're gonna need body armor.
Nobody expects a Spanish acquisition, man.
Well, we'll tell everybody out there in podcast land, if you need somebody to talk to, we are here.
Yeah.
We will take your phone call. Whether it's 2:00 in the afternoon, 2:00 in the morning, we will take a phone call.
Better not be 2 a.m. though, man. I put on Do Not Disturb because I'm a human being. After I want to go to sleep, you're gonna have to solve it till. No, but I'm just joking, of course. But I don't put my phone number out there. But if you can reach out to me on social media and like a direct message or instant message or whatever.
Both of us suffer from different forms of PTSD, so we both understand.
Mine's mostly from getting blown up and people trying to kill me, but
yeah, but we've triggered each other. Like, we've accidentally triggered each other.
We don't need to go into that.
But
that's too personal.
Let me finish. We learned quickly that sometimes you just need somebody to listen. So if anybody out there in podcast land, if you just need somebody to listen, we're very good listeners.
And if you put in the promo code podcast grunts, you get an extra hour of your therapy session.
No, it's you just need a friend.
Yeah, that's the big thing about Apogee. That's why we try and include as many veteran type characters or active duty personnel in there. It's why we're so active in the vet community, especially when it's art related stuff in the vet community. I love hearing stories from these veterans, and usually they're very thankful that someone was just wanted to listen to them, was interested in what they had to say, because there's a lot of people out there in the vet, a lot of veterans that just have no one to turn to, nobody to talk to, especially during silly season. So yeah, that's the thing. We're very pro-veteran. We love our military. We love our veterans. We love all the sacrifices that they've all made, and we're here for them, as well as the consumer. So like, you don't have to buy my stuff to get my attention and have to talk or anything like that. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah.
Oh, also things that are happening. 2024, we're going to be at WonderCon in Anaheim. We're going to be at the Sacramento Comic Convention. And we have one in March in Las Vegas. I believe it's Silver City. As soon as they're having some problems with the website, me being able to buy a table, but this will happen. And then whatever comic conventions, probably going to be mostly based in the West Coast. I just don't have the time to take off to jet set to like Florida unless they're paying me. And, and some of these other great cons that are out there. Doesn't mean I'm not trying to get in, though. Because if I can make it happen, I'll make it happen. But the WonderCon, Sacramento Comic Con or SacCon, and Silver City Con or Silver City Expo, because it's an overall sci-fi convention with comic books and sci-fi and fantasy and stuff. It's a dark convention. convention. It's a nerd convention. It's my people. I'm gonna run into my people there. So those are guaranteed. Those are paid for. That's happening. And then look for updates on the website and the social media for shows that we add.
And if you run into Stabby, she is an awkward turtle.
That's another thing. When we do conventions, so you can find her, we post on our social medias the outfit of the day.
The outfit of the day. Last year's fanboy, I was 1950s female Captain America.
Yeah, you had a 50s pinup dress.
Pinup dress with
50s
the shield.
pinup dress with the shield on it, and we did the hashtag Stabby's outfit of the day, and it actually caught on.
But I'm also awkward. So.
Speaking of outfit of the day, did you see someone who used Legos and glue and they made their own Mando armor?
Yes, I loved it.
I did not see that. Was that today?
No, it was yesterday. I sent it to her.
It's yesterday. I'll show you when we get off.
I'll have to go back.
It's amazing.
Between the two of you, I have like 100 reels I have to go through after work. I'm like, no, and then you want to talk to me while I'm trying. I'm like, honey, I'm looking through the reels. You're asking me about stuff I haven't got to yet. I need like 35. I'm like 35 reels till I hit that.
To be fair, you send me stuff too.
Not like that. You two tricksters.
Okay, first
scallywags.
You married your best friend.
I did, but you got to give me time to look through all the reels, man.
So I cheat, and other people send me stuff, and then I just forward everything they send me to you too.
I ain't gonna lie, I do the same. Well, I can't do it to because when Stabby sends it, she sends it to both of us. So I gotta wait for one of my other friends that also don't have any consideration for my time. When they send me stuff that I'm like, you know who would like that? Stabby and JR.
I literally sent you guys a reel the other day that said, when you only send reels to the 3 people.
Yeah.
Like, you only send reels to these top 3 people. And I looked into my sends, and sure enough, it's Nick, JR, and Nick's sister, Kate.
Yeah. Kate's a lot like me. She's like, what the hell is all this? When am I going to have time to look at all this?
No, she does it to me too.
I hope so. Turnabout's fair play, yo.
Speaking of turning this around, so obviously reviews matter. So please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right product. So speaking of reviews, how might they review your comics, assuming they don't buy them on the Kickstarter or whatever?
Okay, if you are say you're a review website, and of course I'm going to vet you, not just someone's trying to get free books. You can email me at apogeeindies@gmail.com. With just put in the subject line review request of media, and if there's a particular book you want to see, I will email you a digital copy of that for review purposes. And just like Mission Impossible, it will be set to self-destruct after a certain amount of time.
Does the computer go boom too?
Not mine. Somebody's is.
Oh, okay. So assuming that they're not a review website, they're just a customer that wants to like rave about what they love. Can they review things on your website?
On the social medias would probably be best. Probably the Facebook page. That's the best place if you want to leave a review for a comic you've already read. That's of ours. And then, of course, if you want to buy books, you can go to our website, which is going to be in the show notes, apogeecomics.com. Yeah.
So you can also review, at least if for books, like you can go to, like, aside from Amazon, you can review on Goodreads or BookBub. Are there sites like that where you can review comics?
No, I've seen a lot of comics on Goodreads.
Okay.
Stabby's going to have to do research.
But if there's other ones out there before this launches, we can add in the show notes. I got my own personal FBI agent over here who's good at research.
So we will be doing an episode for Indie Comics Day, and that will be one of the things we address in that episode. And Indie Comics is in August. So
first Friday in August.
If nothing
like free comic book. Yeah, free comic book day is in May. It's the first Friday in May. Indie Comics Appreciation Day is the first Friday in August.
Which is the day after your birthday.
Oh, nice. So Danielle's birthday, a friend of mine, August 2nd. It's on August 2nd.
That is the first Friday in August.
Is August 2nd?
Okay. All right. So
Which means next year it'll be my birthday.
So we've gotten how you can review the comics. So before we say anything else, we get to have you. Was there anything about Apogee we didn't talk about?
I don't think so, man. I think we covered it all, soup to nuts.
Okay. All right. So, and how can listeners find you on the wild interwebs? As usual, links will be in the show notes.
It's pretty easy since this is the Apogee episode. I'm going to give you the Apogee links first. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, at Apogee Comics. You can go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Apogee Comics. What else do I got? Oh, no, I've already told Instagram.
YouTube.
Oh, YouTube. You can look up Nick Garber art on YouTube for my personal stuff, which is usually the same stuff you're going to find in Apogee, which is Apogee Comics.
Yes.
I don't know how. I know it's associated with the Gmail. I don't know if I should give the full Gmail account name or whatever, but if you type in Apogee Comics on YouTube, you'll find it. Definitely like and subscribe.
ApogeeComics.com.
That's the website.
Yeah.
I think I said it earlier, but yeah, you can find our website at ApogeeComics.com. For me, you want to find my own personal stuff because I draw more than just Apogee stuff. I do commissions for people, and sometimes I just feel like drawing Wolverine clawing through some trees. You can find me on the YouTube, Nick Garber Art, at Nick Garber Art on Twitter, at Nick Garber Art on Instagram. And then if you want to go to my art page and tell me that I suck or that I'm awesome, I'm also on Facebook with facebook.com/Nick Garber Art. And I think that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, it should be it. Jeez.
Nailed it.
My Lord, I got a lot of stuff.
Nailed it.
Nailed
All right. You can find us, dear listener, on our link tree at linktr.ee, linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast. Again, linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast, where we link to all the things, the bit shoots, the rumbles, the YouTubes, the Twitters. We've got our business email for professional business inquiries only. We've got the Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. We've got Madam Stabby Stab's Instagram, Twitter, and email, where all the shenanigans, hate mail, and all kinds of inappropriate material can be sent. And inappropriate is relative, people. This is a family-friendly podcast. You can find us on our website at anchor.fm/blasters and blades. Again, anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades, where you can support the show for as little as 99 cents a month. You can help keep the lights on, or you can support the show more directly over at buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that it's for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink until it pours out of their orifices. That is my word of the day. Orifices.
Orify.
Anyway, speaking of coffee and Java and all things good, Stabby Stab, what can you tell us about post-holiday caffeination going on for you?
So right now I have two coffees from Coffee Brand Coffee that I am enjoying. I am enjoying the Roaster's Choice. The thing about the Roaster's Choice, you don't get to choose the flavor. You pick that one and the roasters choose it. They send you a bag of beans and you just get coffee. I think mine is Arabian right now.
Arabian?
Arabic? I don't know.
Probably Arabian coffee.
I think it's Arabian. I'm dyslexic, and the bag has an A at the beginning, so it could be Argentina. Who knows? Words don't make sense. Words are hard.
Words are hard.
Words are hard. But I like the Roaster's Choice because it's something that I probably wouldn't have just picked off of a website for myself. But they shipped it to me. It tastes delicious. It smells delicious. I can smell it from the bedroom when Nick sets it up for me to turn on while I'm still asleep. I smell it and I'm like, I look like a cartoon floating out of bed to the smell of coffee. It's amazing.
It's got a very robust smell to it.
It smells so good.
It's a strong coffee.
It smells so good.
Strong like bull.
Yeah, check with your physician before you drink it.
You will hear colors and see sounds by the time she's done with you.
Isn't that how it's supposed to go?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, what's the point?
Right? That's my theory on the subject. Coffee is supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to wake you up and put you on an adventure.
Speaking of fun, this has been a blast. Thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy caffeinated co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. Boom! All right. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Stabby. Sorry Renee couldn't make it. He had to do like family things and, pretend he liked
the holidays.
It's the holidays. He's not hardcore like us. We should have told him he could bring his wife on the podcast. Then it would have worked out fine.
Oh, yeah. She would have loved that.
Z is so much fun, too. I love
there
his
you go.
wife. She is so fun. She does the cons with us.
Nice. And so speaking of having fun, join us in the conversations wherever you find this podcast. Leave a comment, leave a like, share with your friends, share with your neighbors, share with people you like, share with people you hate, but get the word out so we can grow this shindig. And we're out. Peace.